So before we move to the next topic, let me just do a quick poll for 3 topics. So, gentlemen, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not important at all and 10 being one of the most important things, how would you rate your client experiences this past year on cloud computing and moving to the cloud?
Well, I can give you a couple examples, and I think that it is all over the place. I'll have an example of a Asia ownership automotive company that has some of the largest operations in United States, and they were totally reluctant to go to cloud, period. Yeah. But this year helped them to reevaluate that one because of the challenges that they have to maintain their on-premise infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the reality is that a manufacturing company is very good doing manufacturing, but it's not the intent that they become very good to maintain a information technology infrastructure, and more with the security challenges that exist, with the growth capacities that they need to address immediately from one day to another. That suddenly somebody say, okay, we got a contract for building batteries at tremendous volumes, and they need to increase those ones, or buy a different company and merge with another company, and they need to implement suddenly very large amounts of applications. Then that's one of the examples of one of our customers. Another customer, they basically was very natural. The decision was made to go to a cloud for all their IT infrastructure, period. And we have one case where one of our customers say, no, I don't want to talk with you about that particular application because that was not ready for cloud. Yeah.
So it sounds like it ranges from a 1 to a 10.
Well, I will say that the interest is there. I will say it's tending to be more between the 7 and 10 in the interest to go to cloud. It's basically driven in that direction. Even the critical systems for the execution in manufacturing, they are evaluating a lot to go into the cloud, even though it's a critical systems for execution of the shop floor. Yeah.
Interesting. Which is another innovation, I guess, or certainly a mega trend that we'll be discussing in another segment, especially as it relates to shop floor. Raj, what about you? What are you seeing from your customers? I guess give me a 1 to 10 on cloud adoption for all applications for the customers that you're seeing. Just what's your gut feel?
I would say we are very similar to what Eric was saying. Even I have seen my customers, some of our customers, going from 1 to 10. But in terms of, so for me, the biggest hurdle for the companies to do this is the education part. They have been always wary about cloud computing in general because of security and other reasons. But now as they get educated themselves more and more into cloud computing, now they are beginning to show interest, and they are now wanting to try with one application first before they do the entire infrastructure. There are companies who are very savvy in this, and they move their entire infrastructure into cloud. There are companies who are in between. They are trying out, but definitely I'm seeing the trend going in that direction, moving to cloud.
Very good.
Yeah. And Alan, in my case, it has been different stories always, because we depend on the corporate decisions. So we are one step behind. So in Mexico, we follow the trends of the headquarters. And then if the headquarters are moving into cloud, we move into cloud. But the reality is that cybersecurity has been one of the top topics right now, because even though somebody who likes to move, they need to make sure that everything is secure, that every single process can be rely on what they need and nobody else can see what they are doing. So cybersecurity has been that trending topic right now. Obviously, we are going to move to cloud because that's the final decision. Cybersecurity is a must. And then there are some companies that are thinking on a hybrid mode, like some activities shall be on site and some others can be on the cloud. So that could be the trend for the next years. But since I said we are one step behind, so what I can tell for Mexico is that it's moving into cloud. Cybersecurity is a must, and then making sure that all the skills are there for the people to make sure that this thing is going to work. It's a must. So that's Mexico right now.
Very good. Very good.
And Alan, I would say that similar to what everyone else said, I mean, lots of discussion and interest, low adoption though initially, but it reminds me of ERP.
And that's kind of endemic in the
Yeah.
manufacturing
Well,
market. While there's
it's-
a lot of advances in manufacturing, so from a systems adoption perspective, do you agree that it lags a little bit behind other industries?
Oh, absolutely. But the way I would describe it is that cloud is the next big thing, right? I'm reminded of conversations back when ERP was new and exciting, integrated solutions, where a lot of people were saying, "Oh, I don't know about that. I
Don't
would
show
never,
your age, Chuck.
I would never see
Careful.
us moving to an enterprise solution because our custom solutions fit like a glove, right? And until people got educated on what the cost of that lack of integration was and the cost of lack of standardization, they weren't ready to move. But eventually people saw that and went, oh my gosh. And then there were people saying, well, we'll never use the internet. We'll never use the internet to access any applications. It's not secure, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? I remember the creation of the internet up until it took probably 20 years to really start moving applications and accessing applications on the internet. And to me, cloud is the next big thing that will take time to evolve and have people move. But it's the same in that education, right? You have a CIO who says, oh, I'm concerned about security, because I have my own data center and I have control. And then they realize through conversation and education that they realize they aren't nearly as secure as some of the hyperscalers, right?
Yeah.
And that they're only one cyber attack away from total disaster. And so people are starting to get more comfortable with that, and also just realizing that applications are being commoditized to a degree, right? And so we're seeing that evolution occur. And, it's just taken longer than I think a lot of people would have predicted, but those same people predicted ERP to come quicker, the internet to come quicker. And to me, this is no different.
I was at the Sapphire when S/4HANA was first introduced as the replacement for R3. And I remember the general buzz then was never. And, obviously that things change and adoption rates, lag perhaps in some industries, are really advanced in other industries, but it's all moving in that direction, certainly. And understanding those trends and then how to be in the wave as opposed to getting crashed against the rocks, I think is pretty important and something that you guys deal with day to day. So before we get too far, we've been discussing this for a while, but let me shift the focus just a little bit and let's look ahead to 2024. What emerging trends or developments do you anticipate in the realm of digital transformation for manufacturers? What are we going to be talking about next December when we look back at the year? Are there specific technologies or strategies that you believe are going to gain prominence in the coming year?
Yes.
Raj, why don't you go first here?
Yeah. So in my opinion, I think the momentum that we have gained in 2023 will continue in 2024, but definitely it's going to increase. And with pandemic and supply chain constraints are in the rear view mirror, we can now expect more investments coming in 2024 towards digital transformation. Of course, the CIOs and CFOs and CEOs, they have to be careful evaluating each investment to make sure that every dime what they are putting towards this, there is a maximum business value towards that. And cloud adoption, we just talked about cloud, right? The cloud adoption and the cloud computing moving towards cloud is going to be more. I'm seeing that trend is going to increase in 2024. And I know Johnny was talking about AI and machine learning. Many companies have now realized that AI is true and machine learning is really adding value to their business. So all the AI and ML based tools, which basically are pretty standard in S4, those tools are going to be implemented and they'll start getting the value out of it. And another place where I see there's going to be more investment is in connecting devices, particularly in the manufacturing space, where every machine is going to be connected to every other machine because they are seeing the data being centralized, and there is a maximum value they can derive by having a big data with all this AI and ML algorithms. They are able to derive all the analytics what they want to measure the performance of the manufacturing operation. In one more point that I think it's going to be trending is on the supply chain side, particularly many of our SAP customers today, they are investing more and more in the overall supply chain, which includes the manufacturing and all the inbound and outbound logistics. So from a manufacturing perspective, the digital manufacturing, SAP digital manufacturing product is gaining momentum. A lot of our customers have been asking us to give a proposal for implementing DM, because it has a very strong insights, which is called DM Insights, that is giving a huge value for them. Plus, all the additional modules like extended warehouse management, transportation management, etc. All of these, I believe, are going to be in 2024. Many companies are going to be implementing them.
So Alan, to build on what Raj was saying, I think there's two components that are going to emerge. One of them I think is clear and we have seen. The other one I think we are hearing from our customers and people might be surprised by it. But the first thing is, AI and machine learning is driven or is driving data accumulation.
It's a data generator and it's data
accumulation and data clarity. And what I mean by that is so I think there's going to be a wave of warehouse kind of applications occurring, because to me, that's a logical step. You go from the transactional data to organized data at a corporate level into a potential, data lake of some sort, right? Where you can really do AI. I mean, so you got to have all that data for AI and for machine learning. So I think people are going to realize that they're maybe behind the 8 ball there in terms of being ready for AI, being ready for machine learning. So I see a lot of that potentially occurring. And the other area that may surprise others is that, we're big on template and template rollout, which drives standardization, which drives cost effectiveness for an application. Well, we do that well at the enterprise ERP level, but we're starting to be asked to look at standardizing in the MES and MOM space. So that's an area that it does not have a lot of standardization. There's a lot of activity and growing, and it could use some level of standardization. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very costly to try to drive the customer and the plant, the floor together to be able to communicate and affect each other. So those are the couple of things that I have been thinking about and discussing with some of our customers.
Excuse me, Eric. How about you? What are you seeing?
I see if I can call it the 2024 January, like a milestone for the manufacturers that had been suffering a supply chain disruption that didn't allow them to put a full speed in the digital transformation in the last 4 years. Yeah, 3 to 4 years for either COVID, the war here, a interruption of the canal or China war, well, commercial war with the rest of the world, etc. Then we have some key customers that basically say the decision is, okay, we are getting control of that supply chain disruption, or at least learn how to handle that. And then that means that 2024, I see a very interesting investment in those initiatives for converting their manufacturing operations in a more automated data collection, more data driven instead of the transaction driven. Therefore, they will need to have manufacturing operations management systems, and they will need to improve in their advanced planning systems, and they will need to improve in the transactions that comes in and out from the ERP side. Then it's huge, because whoever has been in the manufacturing, they have seen that those top 5 that sometimes is 3 times per day to get and find where the material is or where the material goes. It's very difficult to drive that one without data, and it's very expensive.
And data is expensive. You know, most manufacturers, I believe, see about a 10 times increase in the volume of production data when they add automated data collection capabilities, you know, like with MES.
Exactly.
And it's no longer, in most cases, no longer dependent upon manual entry. So you have sensors that are populating those data fields, and you know, with the increased frequency and the ability to be able to do it, it's a huge amount of data. But with that huge amount of data, if you have the systems to organize it and to evaluate it, and the tools to do that, and the AI to learn from it, it represents a huge change, paradigm shift changes in the way a lot of heavy manufacturers currently operate.
And I want to add to your comment. Data is expensive, but it's more expensive to the operation and the supply chain not to have the data for making the right decisions.
Yeah, like Chuck was talking about before, you have customers wanting to see, you know, essentially production data, and customers, I think, to his point, customers seem to be driving that, and companies are responding. And even though there's a huge amount of data, there's also ways to deal with it, cloud, data lakes, and certainly leverage AI in that process to really drive significant value from it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very. I see in 2024, the executive is asking the question again and saying, how can I resolve the getting the real-time data of where the customer order data is sitting in front of what is my manufacturing capacity data, and then the execution of that and the material of that and all those constraints that exist in the manufacturing operations. Then, well, I think that it is a good trend to digitalization, as Raj mentioned at the beginning of the call. It's becoming mandatory, not as only just strategic for the future, isn't it?
Right.
And more when you have limitation of more constraints in getting material on time or people on time to operations to build the parts, then we need to be more efficient, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Alan, to Eric, to add to that, I mean, the whole transition to S/4HANA is in that perspective a huge enabler, because obviously getting to S4, it opens the door to digital manufacturing. The foundation for BI is even stronger than it was. EWM, to name this one as well. So that transition, I think, is by itself an accelerator for corporation, because if you take a path where you might want to go best of breed for this, best of breed for that, it's much, much longer, and you may never get there. So I think it all together creates momentum and reasons for a corporation to invest into transition to S/4HANA, because that will unleash, I would say it will unleash a fully integrated system as well as integrated data. I think that by itself could justify the transition to S4 globally.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, data is what drives AI. It's what drives machine learning, right? And so
which
you
are
have to have,
certainly
you have to have that data.
the trends.
The other comment I wanted to make was I attended the digital summit of SAP a few months back, and I liked the way they are incorporating AI into their tool set. They're not coming up with this big, crazy, magical solution that nobody understands. They're really applying it at a use case level, you know. So it's like, it's no different than MRP, you know, that looks at orders and looks at inventory and looks at stock levels of materials and tells you what to order, right? It's the same thing, only on steroids now, because you've got integrated logistics systems that have loads more data, that are able to look at a lot more data to make better decisions. And that's really what's happening. So I saw some pretty cool use cases in one of their war rooms in Newtown Square.